KSCR Eugene Springfield. Info Radio. News, information, and entertainment. 1320 Info Radio. A Cumulus station.
My name is Jacob Larson, and you're listening to the Common Sense Show. Got some quick info for you. The BuyCommonSense.com website has changed. The sponsor page has been changed to give people more options on how they choose to support the show. In the past, it was primarily set up for advertisers that left out people who wanted to support the show but didn't have any advertising needs. So we've added a simple donate button to that page for people who would like to donate to the show. Have expanded our advertising services by including services provided by Inverted Design for people who have a more extensive advertising need. I think it turned out pretty good, so give it a check out and let me know what you think. Once again, the website address is www.buycommonsense.com. Last week, we had a crazy show. We had not one, but 3 special guests on the show, and that made for a very interesting show. We discussed women, and we had a Mr. Pink, a Mr. Brown, a Mr. Blonde on the show. Now, I'm actually not going to go into too much detail about the show just yet because we have a follow-up show to that show coming up next week. And for the next week's show, we will have 5, count that, 5 women on the show of varying ages, and we will be discussing men. Now, all of these women have listened to the show that was just done on women and are pretty fired up about it, thanks to some of the comments by the Mr. Colors. So there's going to be, shall I say, a challenging show to manage. 5 different women on the show. God help me. So if you've been a slacker and missed last week's show on women, go to the website, click on the link to the show, and listen into the recording so that you'll be caught up. Today we have a couple special guests on the show. We have Darci Chappell. Chappell. Don't speak until spoken to.
Sorry.
Heather Hammond from the Emerald Valley Paranormal on the show today, and we're going to be discussing the paranormal. So if you have any questions for Darci, Heather, or myself, please feel free to call in at 541-284-7953. Once again, that number is 541-284-7953. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. Now, just to give a brief overview here, I'm a believer. I believe in Christ, and I know we have a lot of believers that listen to the show. So let me explain something here first off, so it's their panties in a bunch. The Bible talks about there being a spiritual battle, a battle that is fought not against blood. There are even scriptures that talk about angels and demons. Now, real quick, go grab your Bible and look that up. And angels and demons are a part of that which is paranormal. The point is this. Typically, when people start to talk about the paranormal, believers or Christians tend to get really nervous. Because if what is being described doesn't fit into the little box of what they believe is an angel or what is a demon, then in their mind it simply isn't so. And I'm here to tell you that simply because you don't believe in it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Now, nowhere in the Bible does it say that God told us everything there was to know about the spirit world, if that's what we want to call it. And it doesn't go into much detail as to what goes on in that world. So I'm kind of willing to bet that we don't know everything. And because of that, there may be some stuff that is interesting and even beneficial to know. Now, if you're an atheist, you can go ahead and stop listening now because you're an idiot, bound by your ignorance, and none of this is going to make any sense to you anyway, bro. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Okay, so we have Darci Chappell. Chappell, like the church. And we have Heather Hammond.
Hello.
Did I get that right?
Yes, of
Heather
course.
Hammond. How are you doing, ladies?
Good.
And you guys are from the Emerald Valley Paranormal,
which is the long version of EVP,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you know, kind of a thing that stands for
electronic voice phenomenon.
Phenomenon, yeah. Okay, so who are you and what's your group about?
We are a group of like-minded people who have had a lot of paranormal experiences throughout their lives, and we decided to check it out and see what's going on, see what we can find out.
You've had paranormal experiences throughout your life, and you just decided, gee, let's create a group and find out if there's other people out there.
The group started in 2007. We've actually been investigating together as a group since '93.
Okay.
But we wanted to help people, so in 2007.
So who makes up this group? Anybody can be a part of the group?
No. We have a core is myself, our lead investigator, Heather, my husband, who was our founder, Andy, and several different family members. It's basically family.
And what do? You just kind of like read up on stuff, investigate stuff? When you say investigate, what exactly takes place?
When you do an investigation, first thing is you want to read up on the location you're going to go to.
Research.
You research. So you know the history of the location, you know what's going on as far as historical value-wise to the location. So then when you're there and things happen, you have a basis of information. Okay, so this was this person doing this, so this might be a residual thing.
So how do you get your information though? I mean, is it just from talking to people? And when you say you do research, you check county records.
You check.
I mean,
Library.
doesn't that take a lot of
Library.
time?
Yes, it
Oh,
does.
yes.
It's very time-consuming, quote-unquote, hobby.
And this is before you ever even go into a place to look at anything.
Yes.
Before we set foot on the location. Well, and if we're contacted for like a residential, we want to know not necessarily, if it's a new house. We want to know what that land was before, what was on that property before there were ever houses there. That's what we're trying to find out. Not the history of the house itself, but the history of the location. Because just because it's a brand new house doesn't mean
that there's nothing
100
going
years
on.
ago.
It could be built over an Indian burial ground.
Exactly.
Like
and we want to know if that's so.
But I mean, come on, is that legit?
Absolutely.
What about pet cemeteries? I mean, can you bring pets back?
It's not Hollywood.
No, you don't bring them back, but you can go
Okay,
out and talk to
but
them.
you see what I'm saying, though. I mean, Indian burial grounds have become popular because of Hollywood, that type of thing.
Right.
But is there some validity to that? And is it just Indian burial grounds, or could it be Irish burial grounds?
I think it's any
or
burial
possibly,
ground.
Jewish burial grounds. What about those? I mean, they have hauntings too, right? Not just the Indians.
Oh, it's
No.
the ground itself that's blessed in whatever way or whatever
Blessed or
form.
cursed, right?
Or cursed. Absolutely.
Because I would consider that a blessing if my house was built on an Indian burial ground.
Well, you've angered the spirits.
Just by building there? Well, I didn't do it.
Yes.
I didn't build the house.
You
No.
didn't know.
Okay,
But-
so
Someone
attack the
did.
contractor.
No, you're there. You're the one
the person there.
parked
You're-
on
yeah.
top of them.
Okay, so let's hear some personal stories. Okay, so you said you guys got into this for personal stuff, and downstairs you had all sorts of stuff you want to talk about, and I wouldn't let you talk about it.
Yeah, you wouldn't. You silenced
That's
us.
right, I
silenced
silenced you. So now I want to hear the personal
Okay.
stories. What's the scary stories?
Okay, I'll go first. This is started in 1993. See, we grew up with my dad going to old ghost towns, things like that, but we never really dabbled. I mean, who cares? We were young. We didn't even know what ghosts were. But it was never shut out of our life. We were never discouraged from thinking it or talking about it. So
you were born and raised to see shadows
Yes.
from a
No.
very early age.
No, we were taken to old ghost towns in Utah and old
Okay.
mines. And,
Okay.
You can imagine as a child, oh, I wonder if this place is haunted, But we didn't really talk about it, but we
And
were
if you did
not,
see a shadow, you didn't think anything about it because we were never taught that seeing something was wrong. Or
Right.
seeing something was out
Okay.
of the normal. It
Right.
was normal.
we could talk about it freely and not be
So
criticized.
the paranormal was normal in your home.
Yes.
Paranormal is normal in our home.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Got it.
But I didn't give it a moment's thought growing up. I never thought about ghosts, never cared. I was a teenager. And so when my daughter was born, she was the first grandchild and great-grandchild in our family. And we took her back to Utah to visit my grandmother. Now, we'd gone to this house throughout our lives, visiting every Christmas, every summer. Nothing happened there. This particular trip, I was with my ex-husband, who my grandma detested him with a passion.
I don't like him either.
He's a
None
horrible
of us
man.
did. It's okay.
I haven't even met him.
That's
You
all right.
wouldn't like him.
You wouldn't.
No. But the very first night we were there, we all, we were tired, went to bed. My daughter was across the way in like this old Moses basket sleeping. And I went to make her a bottle before I went to bed so it would be ready. And it was back when, Infamil had those glass jars with the lid. Well, I put the lid on the jar, set it on the counter, went to bed. And I was just twilighting, sleeping, and I heard something hit the counter and spin. And so I got up and turned the light on just as the lid was coming to rest on the counter. And I told myself, I didn't screw it on tight enough. It just fell off. But I need to...
Well, yeah.
I need to put
bottles like that do that all the time, right?
Exactly.
Right,
On
but
their own.
I was explaining it away with a rational
I think
mind.
everybody does that. I do.
Right. Yeah. So I put the bottle in the sink, the lid separate in the sink, shut the light off, went back to bed. Not even 2 minutes later, you hear the same drop, spin. And I'm laying there in bed thinking, there's someone in the house. There's someone in my grandmother's house. So I'm laying there not moving my body, looking around for a weapon. I'm going to attack this guy when he walks in this room.
Could have been a girl. Let's not be sexist here.
It could have been a girl. Yeah,
Okay.
It could have been anybody.
That's
It was an old Mormon town, so it could have been the neighbor. But they had really short carpeting in the kitchen, and I hear this dragging, shuffling feet coming across the floor. So I'm like, here it comes, and I'm getting ready. And then I look into the entryway into where we were sleeping, and there's just...
Because that's what people who do when they break into your house. They shuffle their feet and drag
slowly,
their feet.
yeah.
And drag.
And
yes,
slat.
and,
drag.
yeah.
And
Make as much noise as possible.
Right. They
and
play
the
with
thing
bottles.
is that I grew up with my grandfather, but I was very young when he died. So I didn't have very many memories of him except pictures. I memorized his pictures. And there shuffling into the room was my grandfather going towards the basket that my daughter was laying in. And I'm laying there thinking, this is a dream. I'm asleep. This isn't happening. But I'm wide awake. I know that man.
But it looked, you say it looked like the guy in the picture.
Absolutely. His suspenders, his cut-off shirt.
As in like a silhouette?
No,
Or
was
it was
his
an actual body?
outline and just the slightest definition of his clothing. But I couldn't see his facial features. It was I couldn't see. I could just see his outline, and I just knew it was him. The temperature in the room, and we're in Utah in the summer, and it's hot.
It's 110.
Yeah.
The temperature in the room dropped so low that I had goosebumps. I was freezing. I couldn't move.
See your breath.
My ex-husband behind me goes, "What is that?" with some cuss words. And I'm just like, I'm imagining this whole thing. I don't know.
I would have probably cut to.
Yeah. So it's leaning down, staring at my daughter, and it stands up and looks right at us and just stands there for a minute and turns the way it came, shuffles back across the kitchen floor, and then is gone. And I'm out of
Grandpa,
that bed,
quit creeping out your
shocked.
granddaughter.
Oh, no. Nobody
She
slept
was a
that night.
month old. She was a
slept
month
that night.
old. I'm
Dude,
out of that
what's
bed
your
like
problem?
shot. Lights on. Go down the hallway. Wake up my mother. Like I can't. I can't. We have to talk about this. Well, I'm consciously as I'm in my mother's room. My grandma's was right next to it. I hear my grandma in her room saying, "You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that."
Your grandma's talking to him.
My grandma in the room next to my parents' room. You shouldn't have done
The
that.
peculiar thing about this whole thing is we would hear her talk to herself
Oh, we just thought she was
throughout our whole
crazy.
lives. And we thought she was nuts, but she wasn't. She was talking to him.
She's talking to your
She
grandpa.
she would come out and she'd say, Ronnie, Dad wants you to do this, that, or that. And we just thought, oh, yeah, well, and
Grandma's
chalked it up
crazy.
to Grandma's crazy. She lives by herself. She's not really seeing things, hearing things. She really was.
We spent so much time in that house growing up that we never saw anything. We never even gave it a thought.
That's weird.
And I could not, it was war between my grandma after that. At night, she would go to bed before us. I would turn every light in the house on. She would get up in the middle of the night, turn them all off. And I would get back up, turn them all on. I could not sleep in that house.
But that's what started the investigating. After that incident.
And when I asked her about it the next morning, because my mom wanted me to discuss it with, she's just like, "Oh yeah, he's always been here. Like, what is the problem? Why do you have a problem with this? He's never left." Just thinking, we've been here. Like, this is news to me. Why am I not hearing this? So from that moment on, I wanted answers. I wanted to know, what was that? And especially a couple years later when my grandmother died, I thought if it's possible for my grandfather to come back, I loved my grandmother.
Then she could too.
Why can't she come and tell me goodbye? Why can't I have one more moment with her? And so we relentlessly tried to contact her. And I think that's where we started chasing ghosts, because I wanted to find her.
Okay, so what was your did you just get involved because of her?
I got involved because of what happened to her.
Okay.
Now, mind you, I was with my dad most of the time when we were out ghost chasing. We called it ghost town hunting because we were just out walking old
They're
ghost
just old
towns,
abandoned towns.
all over Utah. You throw a board in the desert, it's still there 200 years. It hasn't changed. So you go out there, you're checking old ghost mines and stuff, and you see stuff out there.
Okay.
I mean, you do see stuff. And it was never thought of to ask because to me it wasn't
So you guys have probably
weird.
In the process of all this, you probably have gotten involved and seen a lot of stuff that is paranormal.
Well,
Yeah. Well, now we know how to explain it, but back then there
You didn't
wasn't.
know what you were looking at. or-
Right.
Yeah,
We
don't
had
have
no
it.
idea. We just
There was
that
no
shouldn't be
information.
there.
Lifetime books. Remember those old Lifetime books?
Me? No, I'm young.
Well, okay. Yeah.
He's only 18.
There were these old Lifetime books, yeah. And
Yeah, I
you
remember
would have your
Lifetime books,
ESP and your Bigfoot and things like that. That's the only thing I was ever read anything about with paranormal or spirits.
Okay.
And
So
they
how-
didn't even have it right.
So how did you? So you have you've gotten a lot of your information through reading and stuff like that. How do you go about, like you said, finding out what is what? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people out there listening. I mean, thousands upon thousands of listeners
Don't
listening to this
say
show right
that.
now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, now you're freaking me
that
out.
that literally have had probably similar experiences or have seen different things. I mean, I've had personal experiences too. But I mean, a lot of times, how do we know what we're looking at, what we're seeing? Because there's kind of a really, really large box when it comes to paranormal stuff that people just kind of throw stuff in. I mean, like I mentioned before or earlier in the show, I mean, I'm a believer. Angels and demons, common practice. A lot of people know about that, but there's a lot of stuff that falls into, well, it falls into different categories that sometimes don't fit. Shadow people being one of them.
Right.
The Mothman, different ghosts, whether there's evil spirits, whether there's good spirits. The soul get trapped on earth, if that's even possible. Or is it a situation where once we go to heaven, we have, a weekend pass furlough where we can come down and visit loved ones on the weekends? I mean, how does it all work? What about reapers, stuff like that? What do you guys know about that stuff?
We mainly deal with the spirit world. We mainly do quote unquote ghost hunting.
And by ghosts, you're referring to
Spirit.
people who have died and come back,
Right. And whether they
not
have.
demons.
No.
Well,
not
no.
demons,
We have come in contact with demonic activity, but we stay away from that because we are not equipped to deal with it. We don't have anyone on our team who can bless a location. That needs to be handled by the church.
So are you guys Wiccans? Do you believe? Are you
No.
we are not Wiccans.
No, absolutely
No.
not. That's magic to me.
Wicca is a religion.
Okay.
And they practice it like any other religion would, but it does touch in the spirit world. And if you are not, if you don't know, if you just go out and buy a book and sit down in your bedroom and start thinking you're gonna start this, in this religion and everything,
You're inviting trouble.
you're inviting a lot of trouble. You need to work with people who have been in it a long time and who can guide you through their practices and through what they do. Don't try to do it on your own. You're going to get yourself in trouble. And that's when we end up getting phone calls. And what door you have opened, I can't close.
And even with Ouija boards, because, you can go to Toys R Us and buy a Ouija board for $12.
That's a game, right?
It's a game by Hillsborough, but it's not a game. When you use a Ouija board with the intention of contacting the other side, it's the intent. You don't use Monopoly to contact the other side.
Right.
But when you use a Ouija board to
You're opening a
contact
door.
the other side is listening. And when you're trying to get in contact with them, they're going to respond. and you have no idea what it is you're getting in contact with.
No control.
And no
over it.
control.
Right, once you've opened that door, it's open.
And
Why
that's
do people? Why do they? I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
Oh, and once you may think you're talking to Grandpa, but you're not.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. There are a lot of tricksters, and Grandpa may talk to you, but there might be something else that'll slip in underneath. So it's just don't practice.
Don't play with them. They're not a toy.
not.
Well, it makes you
Safe.
wonder why they sell the damn things.
It's a game.
They're popular. It's a popular, ooh, let's go do this and spooky, but
It's a game until the stylus comes off the board and flies across the room on its own accord. And by that time, it's too late. You've got a problem. And there's not many people equipped who can deal with that.
Opening the door's easy, getting it closed is a
Is
different
very
ballgame.
different.
getting it closed requires the church, and you have to have an investigation first, which requires a team that's equipped to deal with demons, because you could have very well brought one across, and which we are not equipped to deal with. But you have to have that recorded evidence before the church
And it's a
will
long
say,
process.
okay, we will exorcise your house. A blessing won't do it.
And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years.
And so it's just better not to mess with that you don't understand. Leave it alone, and I don't know, play fish. Don't play with a Ouija board. It's
fish.
just not, it's not a good thing.
Okay, so tell us about some of that. How do you go about with the investigation, the equipment you use, stuff like that? What takes
We're
place?
contacted. We don't contact people unless it's a business and we want, we've heard you have activity. We want to come in. We're mainly contacted by private people who say we have a problem in our house. The equipment that we use is scientific equipment. We have a K2, which is equipped with lights, and when a magnetic field comes close to that piece of equipment, it will light up depending on the strength of the field. The energy field is in the paranormal world considered to be a spirit. We're all energy, so that is the energy that we're tracking.
It picks it up.
It will pick up it won't pick it up if you hold it up to yourself or equipment, but it will pick it up if a spirit comes close.
So when the body basically dies, the energy that made it operate isn't dead. Is what
Energy
you're saying.
doesn't die.
Energy doesn't die.
It has to go
It
somewhere.
has to go somewhere.
Well, where does it go? It floats around and scares
And see,
people?
and the paranormal field is very hard to scientifically study. It's not like you can take samples and take them back to a lab.
Can't put it in a test tube.
Right. And so it's all experiences and trial and error, and it's so open to interpretation that you really have to know what you're doing before you get into something like this.
And that comes from experience. That doesn't just come from reading books and everything. You got what you have to experience these things to learn what they are.
They were people once,
And
and
that's
they
the
need
one
to
thing
be
to
treated
remember.
that way.
A spirit was a person. If they were mean in their life, they're going to be mean in death.
So there are mean or bad.
Oh, flat evil.
Absolutely.
That's one I will not take my team. You see it done on these shows all the time. They'll go into an abandoned prison, or they'll go into an abandoned
Asylum.
I will not do that, because you're dealing with spirits who in death are the same that they were in life. You're dealing with convicted murderers. You're dealing with rapists. You're dealing with
they're crazy.
the worst
And
of
they're
the worst.
crazy.
And you're dealing with people who were
If we
not
were
legally
equipped to get
sane.
rid of that, we would be more open to it, but we're not.
But
And
if
you're
people
dealing-
don't believe, okay, if somebody says, "Listen, I don't believe in this stuff. It's a bunch of bunk," and they deliberately, "This is where I want to go," I mean, what could happen? to them?
Nothing's going to stop.
Well, you don't want. Okay, first of
Okay,
all,
facial expressions don't help us on here.
I know,
Lisa.
okay.
all right. If we were
I'm
going to go
laughing,
on to an
sorry.
investigation and we were going to take someone who is a non-believer, the warning that I would give to them is you need to understand that just by your attitude alone, you are provoking. You're provoking these spirits who have the same feelings they had when they were alive. And if you anger them, you
will.
are responsible for what they do to you.
They will retaliate.
If they scratch you, pinch you, bite you, it's on you. Because
And they can do those things.
absolutely
Yes,
they
can
do
push
those
you down a
things.
flight of stairs. They can.
Their energy, and
Their
it takes
energy.
a great amount of energy for them
But
to
they're
physically
but they're
interact.
not demons.
They're not
No.
demons. These are just regular people like you and I.
These are regular people.
Regular people. On any given day, they could be happy, great. You can smell lavender or flowers or whatever. They're happy. You make them mad,
And they're
it's just like
mad.
somebody else getting
They'll
mad.
piss in your
They
wheels.
will
They're
call
going
you
to be mad.
names. They will pull your hair. They will throw things at you. We have had it all. Because I'm a provoker. I love to provoke if
Oh,
we're not
she's
getting
bad.
activity.
Nice.
And I have paid for it. So
Paid for it how?
we've had logs thrown at us. I've had my hair pulled. I've been called names.
Very naughty.
Very naughty names on the
names.
EVP recorder. Very. The very last investigation that we did before we took a break, we were out at a local cemetery. I won't disclose the location, but it was it was a location that someone had been wrongfully hung. And throughout the investigation, everybody was getting sick at different periods. And this is what I mean by, we were asking him questions, and on later recall of the EVP recorder, he was answering us and getting mad that we couldn't hear him. And just that was angering him, that we couldn't answer him back. And so we took
Okay.
a break.
So not to interrupt your story, but just real quick here. An EVP recorder is an electronic voice phenomenon recorder.
Yes.
And when it's being recorded, typically when things are being said, people can't hear it. It can
No.
only be heard on the playback.
You can
Right.
hear it
Just
on
for
the
people who
playback.
don't understand what we're
In
talking
between the white noise, you can hear yourself, and then there's a
about. White noise is the
Static.
static that's
the
on the
static, and that's where you hear them talking.
TV. Okay.
And on playback, he was asking us questions, and we were not answering him. We couldn't hear him.
And that pissed
And
him
he,
off.
and he
Oh,
didn't know that.
It
he
hurt
understand
him.
that.
He didn't understand that we couldn't hear him.
He's having a two-way conversation.
So we took a break. We grouped at the vehicles, and then when we sat back out, I took like 10 steps away from the vehicles. And all of a sudden, I wasn't in the cemetery anymore. I was seeing men on horses and hearing screaming, and I was looking through someone else's eyes. I could see a woman clinging to me with children, and he was saying, she was saying, I know you didn't do this. And I was answering her, I didn't do this. You have to help me. I didn't do this. And had I known at the time what was happening, I could have verbally related to them, this is what I'm seeing. But I thought that kind of thing was a joke. I had never experienced it. I flipped out.
What she's talking about, she was basically,
So you had a vision, or?
she was possessed. He took control of her
He didn't
body.
possess me. We weren't answering him, so he entered. I did not protect myself against that.
Okay, hold on a minute here. Okay, you said she's possessed. You said that you're not possessed, that he entered. What's the difference?
There's a difference. He was not physically manipulating my body. He was not using me as his body.
You allowed him to come in? Is that it?
No, she did not. That's what
I didn't disallow him. So before we go on an investigation, we say a protection prayer, and we say, you're not allowed to enter us. You're not allowed to hurt us. But we had our cadets, which was our teenage group, with us at the time. So I thought, I'm not going to protect myself. In case something happens, it'll come to me instead of them. I'll leave myself open so they're protected.
which was her mistake.
Which was my mistake.
Why would you leave yourself open? Why wouldn't you just protect everybody?
I don't know. That was the naiveness. That was what
we
I
always
didn't
do.
understand.
For some reason, she didn't that night. We normally do.
I didn't understand what could happen. I didn't think that was possible to happen.
We've never dealt with it. You see it on television, and you laugh at him. You think they're just acting it up for the
TV.
credit, for TV. It's real. It really does happen. And
She had to slap me to pull me
had
out
to
of
step.
it.
And the bad part about this is, I've known her since birth. It was not her that was looking at me. The facial,
And you could tell.
I could tell. Her facial structure had slightly changed. Her eyes, they were not her eye. I mean, it wasn't even her same eye color.
So if it was a possession, though, you wouldn't be able to just get rid of it.
Right.
No.
It would have taken
It would have
much
taken something.
more than.
Than what
Okay,
it
so
did.
because it wasn't a possession, he just went when he wanted to.
Well, he did what he wanted to do. He showed me what he was trying to tell us, and we couldn't hear him, so he showed us.
Okay, we're going to have a quick break, 2-minute break, and we'll be right back here shortly, folks.
Lane County businesses can improve their bottom line and gain recognition through the Rethink Business program. Supported by local agencies and utilities, the Bring Rethink program helps businesses trim waste and find cost savings in energy, water, waste, and purchasing systems. Don't delay. Contact Bring Recycling today and talk with a Rethink Business specialist, or go to bringrecycling.org.
This message is brought to you by Lane County Waste Management in association with Eugene area radio stations. EARS.
Would you say you're ordinary? To the person who is alive today because you donated blood, to the family whose child received a transfusion to help her recover from an accident, you're extraordinary. Ordinary people, extraordinary gifts. Visit laneblood.org to make an appointment. It's easy and it only takes a few minutes, but the good feeling lasts for a long, long time. Visit laneblood.org, brought to you by Lane Blood Center in association with EARS. laneblood.org.
DVDs for Vets is asking listeners to donate new or used DVDs for the benefit of military veterans who otherwise cannot easily obtain them on their own. With limited entertainment, vets in rehab can use what many of us take for granted every day. To donate new or used DVDs or to learn more about this worthy cause, please go to DVDs4vets.org. That's DVDs, the number 4vets.org.
Hey, when you're unpacking those new electronics and other gifts this holiday season, remember that Styrofoam is now recyclable at St. Vincent de Paul. Do something nice for the environment. Avoid overfilling your garbage can and start the new year Styrofoam free. Residents can drop off small quantities for free at the St. Vincent de Paul stores on Division Street, Seneca, or Main Street in Springfield. And remember, St. Vincent de Paul is your place to recycle Styrofoam year-round.
This message is brought to you by Lane County Waste Management in association with EARS.
And we're back. My name's Jacob Larson. You're listening to the Common Sense Show. If you have any questions for us, give us a call in, 541-284-7953. We've had a couple questions that have come up during the break, but I actually wanted to go back a little bit, okay, on the story you were telling in terms of what you saw and what happened to you. Because as you were saying it, I had something pop into my head. What about a time overlap? Some people, for the science nuts out there, this might be a time where you want to tune in. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics have come up with a theory that basically suggests that ghosts are an actual time overlap, where there are alternate universes that are taking place and they're overlapping. So
different dimensions.
Right. So
Right.
the white noise that you're picking up is actual things that are taking place, but they're taking place in a different time.
On a different time.
Different time plane, something like that. And as they seem to be or appear to be ghosts to us, we are actually ghosts and appear to be ghosts to them.
It's absolutely possible.
It's absolutely possible. It truly is. That's like the shadow people. That's one of the theories of shadow people, is that they could possibly be people from one of these different dimensions, and the veil is so thin that they're able to look in and watch. And the negative feelings that you're feeling are not necessarily coming from them, but they're coming from you because of your fear or whatever.
Okay, so let's touch back on shadow people, because I have interest in that personally. But Theron actually brought up a question during the break in regards to what keeps people here.
They do. A lot of spirits, if they have unfinished, you hear about it, you think it's a joke, but it really is true. If they have unfinished business, if they have things that they weren't able to take care of in
or they
life,
just don't know they're dead.
or they don't know they've even passed, they'll stick around. And they basically are looking for somebody to help them. They don't understand why nobody can't hear them anymore. They don't understand why you can't see them anymore. And they're searching for that. And when they find somebody like a sensitive or someone with a sensitive, somebody who can hear them or sense that they're there, see them without any equipment or anything external involved, they'll bug him relentlessly for
So isn't
help.
that kind of scary for people who are already naturally afraid of death to think that once you die, you could possibly be trapped somewhere and not know what to do or where to go or nobody
Well,
there
it doesn't scare me, but I'm sure it would scare someone who has never experienced anything like this. I would like to think that there is something after we die, whether it's here, whether we're staying with our loved ones or we pass on. At least knowing there's something after death is reassuring to me.
And we have actually crossed someone over.
On accident.
It does actually happen.
It does require, a crossover does require, basic explanation of a crossover. That's somebody who's stuck here on Earth as a ghost, and then somebody comes along and makes it possible for them to move on.
You just guide them to the light.
You guide them. You speak with them. With this particular person, what happened was he did not realize that he had passed, and he was trying to tell somebody that something bad had happened to him. And we were there and we're talking to him, and we were answering questions through our K2, which is the one with the lights. We do yes and no answers, and he was answering and we were asking and he was answering, and he himself felt that he had the information that he needed. He was able to talk to somebody, and we knew what happened to him. And I can't even explain the sensation you feel.
1 minute he was there was a heaviness, and the next minute it was almost like
A breath of spring
the
air.
roof was ripped off the house and the sun shined in. And it was nighttime, but you could just feel the lifting of the atmosphere, and he was gone. We all just looked at each other, and we were like...
Everybody started crying.
He just crossed
uncontrollably.
over.
I mean, you couldn't help it. You just started crying.
So somebody calls you, another question that came up, somebody calls you and they say, hey, I have this situation. You have specifically said that you don't deal with demons.
No.
So how do you know the difference? I mean, if somebody called, you don't know what's going on there. I mean,
There are signs of demonic activity in a house, and those signs are classic. Everyone knows them that's in the paranormal field.
We don't know them. What are they?
If you have a haunting in your house and it consists of changes in behavior of the family members,
They become very withdrawn
from each other. Everyone suddenly becomes sick. Strange
Violent.
smells in the house, constant angering. The house becomes warmer. There are classic
smells
of
sulfur smells.
and so this
Death.
isn't a haunting. This is a demonic.
So those are the
entity.
questions that you ask.
Mm-hmm. We ask them, do you take drugs? Are you on any prescription medication? Because
How
it could
heavily
be
a drinker are you?
hallucinations for all we know. Is everybody fighting, or has there been a change of behavior in the household lately? How is everybody's health? Have you had things happening to you?
How are things at work?
Right.
People will withdraw. They will actually let themselves lose their own job and sit at home or even be evicted from their homes, because rather than go to work and deal with the everyday things, they've closed so much into themselves that they just can't function.
So isolation's a big...
Isolation
Absolutely.
is very huge.
And if those
everything.
factors are in place, we will refer them to a team in the area that does demonic hauntings, but we don't set foot on that property because we're not equipped to deal with that. It's very dangerous to go into a demonic household. And, we have small children at home. I don't want to take that home with me because I can't get rid of it.
Okay.
So we absolutely steer clear. And demons are real, just as angels are real. If there's a good, there's a bad.
What makes demons so bad?
They've never been alive. They're pure evil. Their energy is pure evil.
They've never lived. They've never had a soul. They do not have any concept of
Okay, but
right or
angels have
wrong.
never lived. They've never had a soul.
No, but angels they're good. They're of heaven. Okay. But not all angels are good. No. If you are, believe in the Bible and you read the Bible, Satan was an angel.
Fallen to earth.
Right. So whatever these are, they don't like us, whereas angels, are here to protect us, and I believe in angel protectors. But if you believe in them, you have to believe in the bad, too, because you can't have one without the other. You can't have God without Satan. You can't have good without evil. It's not possible. There is a yin and a yang in everything. you know.
Well, it makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know if people out there listen, are going to think that, but I mean, for me, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It goes in line with what I know. But
well, even the whole concept of religion is based on good and evil, because temptation's evil, and knowing the right way and following the path of God is good. So even the basic concept of good and evil, exists in everyone.
Still present, right?
It's still present whether you believe in it or not.
And then a further thing is there are entities or creatures that know one or the other, but not both.
Yeah, I was going to say, so how many different, I mean, we're talking about the spirit world here, and we've touched on angels and demons and, shadow people. How many different types of, and ghosts, how many different types of entities do you think are out there? If we're talking about a spirit world, I mean, are there taxi driver, ones that aren't as important, but they're still hanging out there? You see what I'm saying? One of them's got to be a janitor. Okay?
It's possible.
Your basic spirits are, you have an intelligent haunt where they know they're dead. They know what's going on. They can physically talk to you, or not, well, possibly physically if they have the energy enough. But they can communicate back and forth with you. An intelligent conversation. You have what's called a residual, which basically, if something happens, whether it be good or whether it be bad, and its presence is strong enough, it will leave like an imprint on the environment. And if the environment is right,
like The Grudge, the movie The Grudge,
kind of.
Well, it's more like Gettysburg.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where people
like
who see
recorder.
the hauntings, it's just like a playback over and over and over and over. The same thing over and over. It's a residual haunting.
And it's environmental
It's not an
conditions or
ghost.
things
It's
are
not a
gonna happen.
ghost. It's
Okay.
the
It's a
event
memory
trapped there.
of the location.
And then you just see it.
Okay, so in those circumstances, it's not even a ghost at all.
No, it can't communicate
interact
with
you.
you.
You're
No.
not going to interact with it. It's just going to replay.
Right.
just gonna
And there's
replay.
nothing you can do about it. It's just replaying.
A lot of things that we get calls on are like footsteps or things up and down your stairs or whatever, but nothing's ever seen, nothing's ever smelt, nothing.
If it happens at the same time every
every
night
night,
and it's the same
You're
event, it's
more than likely
residual.
dealing with a residual haunt. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt anybody in the house.
And that could be a time overlap.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly.
And it's just grandma or someone walking up the stairs to go to bed like she has done for 50 years. It's just something that...
But why would something so simple like that leave a residual haunt? You know what I'm saying?
Who knows?
It's
Whereas,
done
whereas
the same
you have
things
some
in there every day, every year. Her love for her home, her love for whatever. Grandma has left that imprint.
I mean, there have been obviously throughout history some very gruesome, very brutal, very dramatic deaths.
Yes.
I mean,
Right.
you would think that somebody couldn't so much as go to the grocery store without seeing something like that. I mean, you would think.
Well, but some people are open to it and some people are not. And there are people who can see them like they can see you. They see spirits
Everywhere.
everywhere, just like they were you. Then there are people who close their minds to it and they see nothing because they believe in nothing. And if something happens to them, they will rationalize
They
it
dismiss it, yeah.
And
into
dismiss
something
it to
and go on
nothing.
with their life. And they're
Screw a
never
day to bowl of
open.
soup.
Right. And we are much more open-minded than that. We always try to find a reasonable explanation for something.
Whether it be paranormal or not.
We're
we
trying
try
to prove
explain
it's
it.
not a ghost
We
before
try
we
to-
say
yeah.
it is. We check their wiring in their house. We check, are you putting
So you're
on...
not just out there looking for the boogeyman.
No.
It's
Oh,
like,
no.
okay, if
Trying
the
to
guy's
tell
not there, he's
you
not there.
your house
Right.
isn't haunted. You guys need to get your wiring fixed. That's what we're trying to do first before we go in and say, oh, your house is so haunted. You guys need to move.
That'll be 1995.
Right. Like we had one
No.
we had one investigation where their equilibrium was all messed up and they swore it was just this evil spirit. And we went in, they lived in a single wide trailer and the house was not level.
Oh.
When it was set up, it was not set up and leveled. So as you're walking through the house, it's like being in
You're like falling over.
at the end of forest
Yeah.
in the cricket house. You're
And
just like,
then
whoa,
there was
this
a power
is
pole with all the main boxes right above their bedroom, literally above their bedroom. And so you have all of this energy from EMF fields will produce a feeling, a sense.
hallucinations.
They will, if you're there and under it long enough, you're going to have senses of paranoia, you're going to feel sick, just heebie-jeebies.
And so that was,
feelings.
that's when I told you some investigations can be very boring because there was nothing there.
Yeah.
They were being affected by their atmosphere, by the tilted trailer and the bad wiring.
So you guys are actually probably the biggest skeptics out there.
Oh, huge.
I don't want to.
Our founder,
you get
my
calls all the
husband's worst.
time, and you see stuff all the time, and you're going there, oh, yeah, here we go again.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say, and that's what we always bounce it back and forth. This house is 100 years old. It's possible it's bad wiring. We don't go in there thinking, oh, we're going to get one tonight. It's more like we're going to find out.
Ghostbuster boxes where you capture them?
No, we gave up our
Ectoplasma
proton
rays.
packs, after the
Yeah,
first few
we don't have
months.
those anymore. They don't
No,
work. When
they
you
don't
cross
work.
the fields,
That's
it's
too bad.
And people
Yeah.
kind of laugh at you when you go walking in with a proton pack. It's just not good.
If I go on the one with the next year, can I have one of those packs? 'Cause that would be
I
cool.
think we got one in the closet.
as long as you
somewhere.
don't flick it on because
And we cannot cross the streams.
streams, that's
Don't
right.
cross
don't cross
no.
the streams.
No.
Bad.
Well, I
bad.
learned not to do that years ago as a kid. So.
It's bad, Venkman.
Yeah,
Don't cross the
Bob.
I have a
streams.
question for you too. You were saying that these conversations that you can have with spirits, it is very intelligent conversation. Okay, are the spirits aware of linear time?
No.
They're not. Okay,
No.
because
They don't
said
sleep. They don't eat.
Realize it, but they're able to carry on an intelligent conversation. Can't they see what's going on around them? That the time has changed, technology has changed.
They don't leave where
They
they're
don't
at.
leave where they're at. They don't socialize with just anybody. To them, you could be somebody they talk to today, and then 100 years from now they talk to somebody else, and to them it was only maybe a day.
Okay, so if the spirit is staying here because it has its own unfinished business,
Right.
if they're never able to resolve it, so you're saying that their spirit can just stay indefinitely.
Yes,
Unless they're
unfortunately.
given help to cross over. And there are people who specialize in crossing over spirits that
go out, and that's specifically
that
what
are
they
just
do.
trapped. And
Are shadow people demons?
No.
no,
What are they?
No.
I think they
Reapers.
can be.
Are they reapers?
No,
No, they're not
Reapers
reapers.
are to me are more mythological, like unicorns. Because the Grim Reaper is something that you see when you die, supposedly. I don't know, but that's not paranormal to me. It's more mythology.
Okay, so shadow people are not demons. Are they ghosts? They're just other people?
It's a different form of an apparition. It's not to say that they're not a demon, because a demon can take that form. A demon
they
can take the
wish.
form of your grandfather.
Because most, well, that's scary.
It can.
Demons
you
are
get your
very
grandpa look at
scary.
It
A
can.
little child could come running up to you, and it's not.
So, okay, so how do you know the difference?
You don't know
You
the difference.
don't.
You have to feel. It's your intuition. It's
Oh, so you
when
you
you're
gotta feel it.
around that presence. If you're feeling sick or you have a headache, it's probably giving off negative energy, or it may be your reaction to it. But either way, you need to get away from it. When we're in the presence of spirits, just ghosts, you don't feel those
You don't
things.
feel it.
You might get a tingling, crackling, your hair might stand up, but you don't feel physically ill.
But what about fear? If you feel fear, if whatever you see makes you feel fearful.
Well, we don't ever feel fear.
Okay.
It's more of a. You might if you,
You
don't
might.
not used to ghost hunting, but we've done it
I'm
so
not
much
afraid of
that
anything, so.
the fear is not there
But
anymore.
the thing is, also in this field, there not necessarily feel fear itself, but you do have moments of anxiety, or you have moments of a heightened awareness, or you have
Hypersensitivity.
hypersensitivity in some areas, and that just comes with the territory. It happens to everybody. It doesn't necessarily mean anything bad is there, but you do have to be careful. And that is one thing about this field that people don't understand is it's not a safe field to be in. It's a very dangerous thing to go and pursue. These entities, they do have the power to follow you home. They do have the power to attach themselves to things. And you
Furniture.
have furniture.
They can attach themselves to antique furniture.
So, like, Christine, the haunted car.
Yes.
It's true.
I don't know.
I don't know about that, but
It's
Maximum Overdrive. It could have been Aliens. I think it
Haunted
was
Car.
Aliens.
That's an awesome movie, though.
I
It
know.
would be so cool if you had a car like that.
I would love to have a car like that.
Okay. Me too. Okay, so so what is
Heather.
what is the one thing? Have you guys ever decided to? You guys have always had it going. You've always decided. Was there ever a given moment where you decided, "Hey, I'm just not going to do this anymore"?
Yeah, the last investigation.
Yeah, when
The hanged man took us over, or took me over. At that moment, I was done. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. This isn't a game.
It was over. That was it.
I said, I didn't know that was possible. So I felt at that moment very naive, like we had just become complacent and didn't respect it enough. And I was just like, I can't do it anymore. If that's possible, what else can they do? I want out. I don't ever want to do this again.
And we already knew that the possibility was there when, a spirit can interact with its environment. It may not be able to kill you outright, but it can manipulate your environment. It can push you down a flight of stairs. It can
do Jedi stuff, lift stuff up and throw it at you.
It can lift you up.
It can lift you up and throw you someplace. They can interact with you.
Isn't that more associated with demons and like exorcisms and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's seen The Exorcist, right?
Yeah.
What you need, no, not necessarily. If you make a spirit mad enough, it has the power to reach out and touch you back. And they will.
Scratch you. Throw things at you.
So to say that they can't hurt you, that's a myth. They can.
Have you seen the movie The Sixth Sense?
Yes.
Yes.
How accurate is it?
There's a little Hollywood in there, but I think it's pretty accurate. If you pick it apart and just on the paranormal side of it, he really didn't know he was dead. And children are not as jaded as we are as adults, so they're more open to things. And it's very possible that
if your child has an imaginary friend at home,
you need to check that out.
You need to take it seriously.
Yeah.
You need to watch movements. You need to watch things around the home. You need to.
So imaginary friends just aren't necessarily imaginary.
But it could also be something else.
It could be something else. They could have a real friend you just can't see.
It's kind of creepy.
They're more open to those things because they haven't closed their mind off, over time. So, I mean, you see little tiny babies laying in a bassinet and their eyes are following something that you just don't even know what it is. They see it and they're laughing and, they're wide open to those experiences because they've never been taught
not
to ignore them or chalk them off to something else.
What about animals?
Oh, yes, animals. My dog goes, see, we've had something follow us home, and it is attached to my daughter, and it's still attached to my daughter.
What do you mean?
We did an investigation up at a cemetery. Whatever this entity was, attached itself to her, and it has stayed with her. Her name is Anne. We've communicated with her numerous times.
Still do on it.
She goes on investigations with us when our daughter goes, and she will communicate with them through Nikki and on the EVP recorder. And she's always with my daughter.
How old's your daughter?
My daughter's teachers have seen her in class. My daughter's almost 20.
Wait a minute. Your daughter's teachers have seen this ghost?
They will They would hold my daughter back after class and say, there was something standing behind you through the entire class. And my daughter would be like, I know, that's Anne. And they would be like, I thought you were lying all this time or you were just making that up, but she was there the whole time. The whole time. So now you've got her teacher who thought this was all made up, just saw it for 45 minutes.
And Anne's just a ghost.
Yeah, she's just a ghost.
She's, my daughter's scared of her, but she's not evil. She's just a ghost. She just hangs around, moves stuff around every once in a while.
She's not there
Sometimes
all the
she's
time.
gone. Sometimes she's not there for months at a time, and then she'll just come back.
Pop up.
And there's no rhyme or reason why she comes and goes.
Well, see, my daughter had a really traumatic childhood, and so I think that she attached herself like a kindred spirit because my daughter had a period where she felt real alone, and so she went to her, but she, for whatever reason, stayed with her. And my dog interacts with that. When she's around, he'll bark at nothing. He'll chase nothing,
Well, see, and that's the one too, because obviously I've heard... the animals can sometimes are a little bit more perceptive to spirit world, and they can pick up on negative energies, positive energies.
They can.
There's been
well, and they can hear
yeah.
in those levels higher than we can hear. So what we're not hearing, they can hear that. The fields that we can't hear. So.
And that kind of falls into the EVP category with, the high pitch or the white noise. Or
right.
whatever,
Correct.
So what about different properties? Okay, we talked about how there's some locations that have a residual. What about different properties that carry a negative energy, similar to like a Indian burial ground or something like that? That's not necessarily a ghost. I mean,
No.
it's just an energy or a feeling that's trapped down
Right.
at that location, right?
Right. Something traumatic happened there, and it had to, and just like we were talking with the recording of Grandma up and down the stairs, events will imprint on the ground itself.
Well, that's where the legend of the Mothman comes from. Because Point Pleasant, West Virginia, that town was supposedly cursed by an Indian chief 200 years prior to the Mothman sightings. And that's where they think that came from. That the curse he put on Point Pleasant itself has never been lifted. So you'll always have this negative energy there. And whether or not there's a way to get rid of it, I don't know. I don't know if you can exorcise a curse.
Orbs. Are orbs real?
Depends on who you talk
What is an
to.
orb?
It's a very, very hot topic. An orb is supposed to be the manifestation of a spirit in purest energy form. And it's just a pure ball of energy. And you'll see those before you see activity. So if you're looking at a video and all of a sudden you see a little orb fly by, and then 9 out of 10 will catch an EVP seconds after. Or somebody will get touched, or you'll hear a bang.
But in the paranormal field, they're not considered legitimate evidence.
They're not
because there's
considered
too many
evidence.
other things they could be.
Bugs, dust. Any
car
pollen.
Headlights.
Yeah.
So we don't hold on to orbs.
So an orb itself isn't necessarily a ghost or spirit.
No,
but
it's pure energy is what it is.
It could
a sign
be.
of one.
Right.
But, okay. All right. So what about, we've got, 3 minutes left? 3 minutes left. Let's see here. Haunted locations in the area, ladies. Is there any you can mention on air?
Oh, yeah. Out in Shed, Oregon, there is the Thompson Mill that we investigated. Very haunted. We had a great amount of activity in that
Wonderful
location.
Time. Very, very clean energy.
There is a water wheel that runs underneath there, so it's constantly feeding energy into that building, natural energy, and the activity is
It was off the
really
hook
good in that location.
Another McDonald Theater.
The McDonald Theater downtown that we're hoping to investigate soon.
Yes, it would be fun. And I can speak from experience that Hasita Head really is haunted.
The lighthouse.
The lighthouse.
Yes, our team went in.
We were in, and our founder, my husband, was actually walked through.
And he's a skeptic.
He's a complete skeptic. But
wow.
It was really neat. And you see little children, shadows up and down, running all over the place. They're everywhere.
That's just creepy.
So it really is.
So, okay, websites, phone numbers, how do people contact you?
EmeraldValleyParanormal.net, or you can find us on Facebook. And then our phone number would be 541-998-8584.
If they've got any paranormal stuff going on,
even if they just want to talk, sometimes you just need someone to talk to.
Okay.
And that's the thing. There's nothing that we haven't heard. There's nothing that that you can tell us is going to shock us. Just call.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter what time.
Good. I like it. Any other questions, Taryn? You got any questions? How you doing?
Thousands.
Yeah. All right, ladies. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. I thought it was incredibly interesting. I think that's totally great. Quick info for anybody out there. If you like what you've heard on today's show, please support the show. Go to www.buycommonsense.com. Click on Supporting the Show section of the site. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, we'd love to have you. Pop me an email. I'll get you set up. Thanks for listening, folks. Tune in next week, same day, same time.